Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your Sunday morning Manchester United transfer news show, and we've got some big updates for you as Manchester United are right back in the race for Benjamin Sesko. This is an update coming in from Fabrizio Romano. We'll talk about that. We've also got an update on a goalkeeper that you all like, the Lille goalkeeper, Chevalier. Update on where he's going. We've got Ruben Amorim talking about the midfield, talking about the striker situation. Lots to discuss this morning. Don't also forget, you might have missed it when you went to bed last night, we've got an exclusive interview on the channel with the man of the match last night for many of you. Not Delitz, that would have been my man of the match. Agate. Beth interviewed Agate after the game. He spoke about what Amorim's told him. He spoke about Mbeumo. He spoke about Cunha. He spoke about Manu. Check that out on the home channel as well. But we've got a lot to unpack this morning, and we're going to start off with the story about Benjamin Sesko. Before I do that, though, look, I think that one of the things that I would say is that watching the game last night, and if you didn't watch it, I think it is worth a watch. I'd probably watch the first 65 minutes. I think when the subs come in, it gets a bit crap. But yeah, look, I mean, surprising things, West Ham had more possession because I think we had the better chances. It was a good workout, a good intensity. My only fear is that the pre-season Pirlo this year could be the team. We might overhype this team and go, we don't need any signings. And I don't mean the fans, I mean Amorim and the club. They might go, well, do we really need a striker? Do we really need a midfielder? I think we'll get the goalkeeper. I think we'll get Lemens. But that's my concern, is that, you know, Amorim was very positive about some players that you thought might be moving on. Are we going to try and polish the turd, so to speak, and then get hit with a couple of knockout blows in October and September and realise we should have done the deals we were talking about? So let's have a look at it. Sorry, I've just been messaged something here around Sesko, so I'm just having a quick look at it while we're here. Right, start off. Sesko story. No messing about. Now, I said on the watch-along last night and on the morning show, Ollie Watkins is the priority for Manchester United. And I think that with regards to where we're heading, obviously that's going to be very, very difficult because Aston Villa are asking for a silly price. I said it a couple of times yesterday. I haven't had any information on this. Sometimes it's just fan opinion. In fact, most of the time it's just fan opinion on here. I don't think Sesko to Man United is not possible. Now, I'm not saying it's red hot like I did, but I think that what does jump out to me is that this deal can happen for Manchester United if they want it to happen. But this is what Fabrizio had to say, because my opinion doesn't stack up against one of the best transfer experts in the world. He says, keep an eye on the Sesko story in the coming days as Newcastle go with an important proposal, and Manchester United will discuss again internally with Ruben Amorim involved in the conversations, with the directors and with the financials to understand if they can do a deal or not. The Sesko situation will be one to watch in the next 7 to 10 days. That is a big update. Like, that is a huge update this Sunday morning. This is probably one of the biggest striker updates we've had all summer. Basically, United have got to figure out the financials, whether to enter the race. Now, I understand the limitations of Sesko. He is still young. There are still, corners to be smoothed in relation to his development. But he is the best striker on the market at the moment. Like, he is the best striker on the market because of what he can give you for the next 10 years, the resale value he could give you in 4 years. I mean, if he came to Man United and scored goals for 3 years and we were still shit, we'd be able to get our money back. So, because he'd be 25. So there's a lot of value in Sesko comparable to, you know, a Mitrovic or a Nicholas Jackson or even an Ollie Watkins, to be fair. There's more value in it. It's more long-term. It's more what Man United are meant to be about now. So I hope this is true. And look, we're not dealing with, you know, Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic or James Ducker or, you know, the Manchester Evening News here, who you might go, don't know whether I trust them about transfers. We're dealing with Fabrizio Romano saying, watch the Manchester United situation. They're going to discuss Sesko this week. So look, he has said the same about Gyökeres. You know, there was that Monday morning where it was watch the next few days with Man United and Gyökeres. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. But the fact that it's on the menu, the fact that it's going to get discussed, means that, well, two things. One, positively, we're still talking about strikers because we have to. And two, we could be looking at what isn't plan A, B or C, but is a very good option, plan D or E. So, look, let's see what happens with this. What we do know is Newcastle are, without question, the club that are a team. I'm trying to put... Sorry, I'll just say it because it's not the Newcastle stand. Newcastle have been absolutely tormented this summer transfer window. Liam Delap, Pedro, Mbeumo, Ekitike, James Trafford. They literally have dropped the ball on every single target. They tell the world who their targets are, and then they miss out on them. And we know they want Sesko. And would you back Newcastle to get this deal done? I've just had another message about it here. I don't know. Man United have got to put... I mean, look, I've just had a message from somebody here. They're saying, look, where are you getting this information from? And I'm saying, watch the show. Russell says, huge bid. Well, that's the second part, isn't it? What's it going to cost? It will be a huge bid to get him. What will it cost if we go for it? So it will cost a lot of money to do it. But the update is, Fabrizio says, watch it over the next few days. Man United are going to discuss hijacking a deal for Sesko. The thing is, it's not really hijacking either. The RB connection with Favel, Man United being more of a pull of Newcastle, you would hope, and a striker that is ready to move. So yeah, I think keep an eye on this one, definitely. But it's exciting. What we must all do is just go, this is exciting because it's coming in from Fabrizio. Why would he say that? Secondly, we've embarrassed ourselves a little bit on strikers so far, but I'm encouraged by that, definitely. Jaden's gifted a membership. Thank you very much for that. Somebody said in the chat, how are you not tired? Straight into bed for 3 o'clock. Up at 9:20. That's 6 hours, 20 minutes. That'll do. That'll do. You only need 6 hours just to get by and then catch up tonight. Well, it's individualism, isn't it? Get your chats in. Russell says huge bid. We've covered that. Thank you very much. And thanks for the gifted membership, says the best. He got it. There we go. Thanks everyone who's tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and smash a like on the video. So just a very, very quick update as well. There's a few things I want to go through, but just a very quick update as well. The goalkeeper, another update from Fabrizio Romano. Explain this one, because this is a player that well, some of you, you're hipster, a little bit like Cherky. You wanted him at Manchester United. Paris Saint-Germain have agreed personal terms with Lucas Chevalier. Talks ongoing with Lille as requested. Bid starts from 40 million euros as L'Equipe reported. PSG start moving as they still cannot agree a new deal with Donnarumma. So I just want to say fair play to all of you. You all said we should be going for Chevalier from Lille. He's going for some... why are we not doing it money? I mean, if he's going for 33 million, then I would imagine that's a financial thing when Lemens is half the price. Now, I don't know whether Lemens is better or worse, but he's half the price. So, look, sometimes you lot come up with really good suggestions, as I would call online scouts. It doesn't mean United are looking at him. So just an update on that. Regardless of fee, Sesko wage demands will be high, says Ghost92. Yeah, well, that's something to consider. It will cost money, of course. Going crazy, totally hyped up for Sesko. Here we go, says Biz. If you are tuning in and, you know, you're a bit tired or, you know, it's a Sunday, look, it's a positive update. I mean, look, I'm not going to run away with this because a few weeks ago, I had the whole Man United to Gyökeres to Man United is red hot, and that was the best Sunday of the transfer window so far. I was buzzing, and I'm not a big fan of Sunday. So I imagine some of you are feeling like that this morning because this is a significant update around Sesko, as I say, Fabrizio saying, keep an eye on the story in the coming days. Man United are going to discuss this internally with Amorim and the directors to see what the financials are on a deal and entering the race with Newcastle. That's a very significant update. But as we know, Delap, Ekitike, Gyökeres, Watkins, we've had disappointment on everybody we've gone for. PD, he was one of our members, P Dog. He says, any news on the midfield? Yes, we have got some news on the midfield. We will talk about that in a moment. Some comments coming in from Ruben Amorim. I just want to get through some of the transfer stuff this morning. And I will read some of the... I've caught up on the comments, I think. I've caught up on the super chats. Anyway, let me just have a quick look at the comments. Rico says, fell asleep and woke up at 5:30. Højlund was never as good as Sesko for people who keep saying he's just a taller Højlund, says Brisket. No, Sesko, I mean, I don't know loads about Sesko. I wouldn't say I've watched loads of Sesko, but I would say he's a very different player to Rasmus in the sense that he has more technical ability with the ball at his feet and he's more established goal scorer in the sense that Bundesliga, Champions League, etc. So he's scored more significant goals in his career, even though they are the same age. I mean, just on Rasmus, by the way, I mean, look, just because we're in for Sesko, just because Watkins is a priority, doesn't mean that we get either of these players. As I say, Watkins is the priority at the moment. It just looks like Villa have closed the door. He played for Villa yesterday. United could be wandering from another closed door to Sesko. That sounds like what it's going to happen. You can't just go, well, Watkins wasn't a priority. It was on Thursday, and it has been for 2 weeks. But if we can't do a deal, we're moving to the next door. So it's the striker thing concerns me because it would just seem to be wandering from one target to another, and you know it is a very important position. But this is what Amorim said after the game. He spoke about Agate, Bruno, and Rasmus. I will talk about the midfield in a moment, but he said, "I really like Rasmus's game, the runs, the way he fought in the game, 1-against-1 when we kicked the ball. He connected with his teammates, and he did a good job." Look, I watched the game last night. I know better than to sit here and say we should keep Rasmus and stick him up front every week because that's just inflammatory bullshit. I think he's been shortchanged in his career at Manchester United. Coming in at as a 20-year-old with Martial as your second striker to compete with was like coming in and, you know, competing with a cardboard cutout. And then last season, Xerxes not really a forward. So he's had to be Man United's main guy for 2 years at the ages of 20 and 21. That's not great for his development or confidence. And he hit rock bottom at the end of last season. I would like to see him stay and develop, but I still stand by what we've all said. He should have an experienced striker next to him or a striker next to him that, you know, pushes him to the bench and then he's got to fight back. Does he want that fight if we bring that striker in? We could bring Sesko or Watkins in and he could say, I want to go. So, look, if Rasmus wants to stay when we brought the striker in, I'm happy. I don't know why anybody wouldn't be happy. It's more options. But if he wants to go when we brought a striker in, then let him go. That's the way I look at it with Rasmus. I get tired of the whole, he's shit, this, that and the other, or even the toxic positive, we don't need a striker, give him a run, he could be the next Gyökeres. Both opinions are wrong. We actually need a striker. And it's nothing to do with Rasmus. Like, Rasmus should stay, in my opinion. We need two. But we need a striker. Like, we shouldn't be going... As I said, my big fear last night when I went to sleep was that... nothing like that. That we're going to make do. That the whole pre-season could be a pre-season Pirlo in the sense that we start winning games, we do okay, and everyone says we don't need to sign anybody, and the Glazers are getting very excited. I don't care if we beat Bournemouth 4-0, Everton 4-0, Fiorentina 4-0, we still need a striker, a goalkeeper, and a midfielder. Nothing's going to change that. No football's going to change that. No system's going to change that. No goals are going to change that. We still need those because, in my opinion, and many of yours, those were priority positions that we absolutely needed, without a shadow of a doubt. Sesko would be another experiment, and he's not a baller. But you know what, Tilak? I think it's helpful, because I'm not disagreeing with you, it is a risk. But statements like that are just so absolute. It's like kick Amorim out his shit. And I think the reason communities like yours and ours are better than the mainstream is because we don't just make silly statements. We also add a layer to the conversation. And that's what I would urge you to do next time. Sesko is another experiment and he's not a baller. I think we should go for Watkins for this, this, and this, or I think we should go for Mitrovic or whatever, because you've got to be realistic about what the market is, and you've got to offer up an alternative. We need a striker. If you don't want Sesko, where are you going to go? You know? If Wizza is pushing for a move, is that a move we should try and hijack? No Brentford pain to negotiate, but his chemistry with Mbeumo worked well. Look, the Beast makes a good point. Maybe that could be an option, but have we ever been really linked to him? No. I've never understood why there isn't a ride in an NDA in place when United go after a target. Why is it all over social media? Surely you get a better deal if it's done privately, says Monoxide. Trouble with NDAs is that loose lips sink ships, and people, it's very, very difficult in football. Having said that, it's a good thing to say on a Sunday morning. There are certain footballers, ex-footballers, who've got those, and celebrities, what do they call them? Is it injunctions? I think they're called something else. So basically, and it's rumoured to be some footballers, some even say Man United players, I don't know. I mean, we could all guess at what the names of the players are. Super injunctions, that's what they're called. So basically, you've done something and you can go to court and stop the media putting it out there. And I don't know whether it happens in other countries, but there are some big celebrities and ex-players who apparently have got these super injunctions, which is incredible, isn't it? Because we, you know, God knows, some of these people might be on the TV, but we don't know what they've done. So yeah, you never know what with these sort of things. I don't think NDAs they are suable, but I think in transfers you're going to struggle, aren't you? Because it only takes somebody to, you know. Yeah, look, I don't think you can stop it coming out, basically. I tell you what, I want to just say, just talking about the mainstream, right? There was a guy last night on TV, Graham Lasso. Used to play left back for England and Chelsea and Blackburn. He was quite a good player, actually. And Robbie Fowler actually made sort of a homophobic, I think it was a homophobic gesture towards him in a Liverpool-Blackburn game. And effectively, I think that was because he's always been quite well spoken. If you listen to Graham Lasso, you think he should be on bloody Newsnight. He's really, he speaks really intelligently. Well, he's done it again because he made a brilliant comment last night. And I thought, you know what? How rare is it to get an ex-player speaking like you lot speak? So what he basically said was, and we've never really heard it before, he basically articulated it in a better way than I can, but he said something along the lines of, when you look at that Manchester United squad, what you see on paper, you don't get on the pitch. The team on the paper should be way higher up the league, but it doesn't deliver on the pitch. So effectively what he's saying is, it's like the most amazing car, Ferrari, but when you get in it, it drives like a Vauxhall Astra. And that's United's problems. And that is so true. I mean, I fall into this trap all the time. I look at Manchester United and I look at our bench, especially on this tour. You know, I looked at West Ham's squad bench yesterday and like West Ham, Bowen, Wan-Bissaka and some of their players played 90 minutes. I mean, I wish we could do that, but we don't because we've got such a big squad and you've got to give Mount minutes and you've got to give Maguire minutes, you've got to give Shaw minutes, you've got to give Delot minutes. So you end up having to make subs. But West Ham and Everton and everybody, they probably will, you know, they haven't got the squad that we've got. But then our squad doesn't deliver. On paper, we have got some brilliant, brilliant players. But we don't get the Chelsea Mason Mount, do we? We don't get the Luke Shaw of 3 years ago. We don't get the Casemiro of Real Madrid. We don't get the Onana of Inter. We just, the drop-off, as Madison says, the drop-off is insane when you look at it. Look, the money we've spent, the wages we pay, but the reputation of these players, they don't deliver in a Man United shirt. After what I saw from Rasmus last night, we need a striker, says Luke. Do you think Sesko is another learner driver? I think he's on his P plates, if you know what they are. So learner driver is an L on your car. You've not passed your test. When you pass your test, you put a P there to say I've just recently passed my test. I think Sesko would be a P in the sense that I think he's passed his test, but he's still new. So I wouldn't say he's a learner driver because at Salzburg and Leipzig, he's had to lead the line from a very young age and he's been playing in the Champions League with that regularly as well. So I think he has more experience than what you'd call a learner driver like Delap or even Erasmus. but he's still got things to learn. He's not established, I would say that. But that in itself could be a positive because he's done very well and he's still got gears to go through at the age that he is. Sorry about the last message. Ollie should be the one, says Tilak. No, Tilak. We're all learning. I just would say, so Tilak's saying Sesko, no, Watkins, yes, which, look, I don't disagree with that. I just think it's very difficult because there's a big difference between Sesko in his early 20s and Watkins who's about to hit 30. It's a balancing act. And also, you might have to pay the same. If Sesko's price is 60 and Watkins' price is 60, I'm leaning towards Sesko again because it's like there's about 8 years, isn't there, in difference? And there's still gears for... I think Sesko at 25 could be one of the best strikers in Europe. On the other hand, he could be like Nicholas Jackson. So that's the sort of thing. Do you think we're in for Donnarumma? No. Hope I'm not wrong. Sorry, I hope I'm wrong, but our first 8 games could be season defining. If we lose against the big teams, heads could drop and go back to last season dross, says David. Look, I think the big thing that nobody wants to discuss about last night, and I get the fact that it's the tour, it's a bit of a PR machine, there's a lot of positivity. I was, obviously Beth's over there and she says people are really buzzing, and I get all that because it's an intoxicating place, New York and the States, and there's a lot of buzz. It's pre-season, etc. And I do get all that, but I also think realism is really important. We did finish 15th. We did lose to Spurs. We haven't done enough. We've still got major weaknesses in the squad. And on top of that, we scored first in that game. And I think we all know when Man United score first or things are going well, we're all right. When things go bad, then that's the problem. And actually, it wouldn't be a bad thing if Bournemouth, Everton, one of them scored first against us to see what it's all about, because I think we're fine when we score first. I think if we'd scored first in the Europa League final, we'd have won it. The problem is when things go wrong, and that's something that we're going to have to learn again and see if we've improved on, because I think you're absolutely right. The Beast says, if Wizza is pushing for a move, is that a move we should try and hijack? Oh, we have done that one, thank you. Watch the Gym by João Felix from Chelsea. Yeah, well, João Felix is going to Saudi for about 50 million quid, isn't he? Chelsea are just, they're just an absolute beast, aren't they? I don't say it from a position of it's wrong. I say it from a position of jealousy, just how good they actually are when it comes to transfers. Let me just update you on what Ruben Amorim had to say then as well. He said about Agate, first thing is adaptation to a new team. As I said, you can check out the interview with Agate that we have up on the channel, which Beth conducted last night. Nice to get those exclusive interactions with some of the players, so you can check that out. But this is what Amorim had to say about it, and effectively, let me just get the direct quote. So it's Amorim talking about the midfield, really. First thing is adaptation to a new team. When they're talking about Agate, a new country, sometimes we just look inside the pitch. Off the pitch, you have some troubles sometimes. He's more adapted now, and then I think he needs more confidence, and that is also my job. And I think that on Agate is absolutely spot on. I think there is just this relentless impatience, certainly within the Manchester United fan base, to not look at context. Agate came into the team after pre-season, after 3 games, right at the end of August, had no pre-season. Within no time, the manager that bought him is sacked. You've then got another interim. Then you've got Amorim, who basically comes in December. And it was just a very disruptive first season, which is why I think Mazraoui and De Ligt deserve a lot of credit, because they were actually quite consistent amongst that disruption, and they were players that had played for Ten Hag before. So that would have been quite unsettling. But certainly Agate had no pre-season. And, I think there were some sporadic good games, but there were some, questionable ones as well. Which is why I think most of us have looked at this season and gone, when you look at Gravenberch at Liverpool, his first season was pretty much the same as Agate. It was a bit disrupted. But his second season was really good. Settled, pre-season, understands the league, has a manager that supports him. So I think, it's a big season for Agate. And I'm certainly not going to say Agate's the solution after a pre-season game against West Ham for an hour, but he was a lot better than Casemiro was against Leeds because he's got the mobility. I think you have to have a player like that in your midfield. And I think with Ugarte, people forget he's in his mid-20s. He's a player that can do that role, and hopefully he'll be given the opportunity to do it. There are limitations. I think sometimes on the ball he's a bit questionable, but the tenacity, the speed across the ground, the aggression, we need that type of a player. And I think he's got to be utilised in that midfield if that's what we're going for. I don't know when we talk about midfield, we must be really careful, because the midfielders that we're being linked to, I mean, somebody was saying last night that Juventus are going for Yulman. I mean, I don't know how they're affording Yulman. I still think if we go for a midfielder, it's more likely to be Ndidi. I wonder if now, amazingly, we might be trying to push Casemiro towards the door again. I mean, we have been pushing Casemiro towards the exit door for about 18 months and he won't budge. So I don't necessarily think just because Casemiro didn't start last night that he's going to leave. He's got a year left on his contract. He'll want to go to the World Cup. But Ancelotti is a big fan of his, so I think that probably won't be the case. But I feel that we do need a midfielder, and it was interesting what he said about Bruno, because he said, look, Bruno, this is Amorim's words, he leads by example, he works really hard, he's always available, and sometimes he'll play with pain. But sometimes he gets frustrated and loses a little bit of focus of his job. Sometimes he wants to help so much it is not the best thing. He has to wait for the ball. And I actually think that this Bruno anti-Bruno movement, which, you know, obviously Ricky's never been a fan, and this pro-Bruno movement, which you could probably define as he can do no wrong, player FC, there is a middle ground. And I think the manager has just ended the debate. It won't end the debate, but he has just ended the debate, because that's basically what I think of Bruno. I like Bruno, but I'm fully aware of his weaknesses as well. I mean, he scored 2 goals yesterday. One of them was brilliant. He's a game changer. He is massively important for Manchester United, whether you like it or not. And I agree with Amorim that he does lead by example. He does work hard. He is always available, and he does play injured. But this is also the manager saying exactly what I and some of you've said. He is frustrating. He does lose discipline, lose focus. And sometimes he wants to do too much. And that's not the best thing, because you lose position. He's got to be patient. And that's the manager. So I make no apologies. You know, I know how the internet works. I know how the United fan base works. If you criticise someone like Bruno Fernandes, you're toxic and you're a hater and you shouldn't be supporting this football club. And yet, the manager of Man United has just said exactly what I've been saying for a very long time, and what some of you've been saying for a very long time. There can be negatives and positives. There can be praise and constructive criticism. And he is our best player. He is our captain. He does lead by example, but he's also frustrating. He also lacks discipline at times. He also tries to do too much at times, and he's also not patient at times. That, from Amorim, I think is brilliant. And every Bruno Fernandes hater, lover, or sit on the fencer should read that and go, well, that's the mic drop on Bruno, and Bruno needs to read it and understand it. You are appreciated, but you can be frustrating. And those frustrations come from the belief that you have to do everything, which causes you to get frustrated, causes you to lose discipline in your positional sense. And sometimes you just need to be patient. And, you know, I think that's a fair thing. Now, if we're going to use Bruno in the number 10 position or the number 8 position, then he does need to slow it down. He does need to be more patient, because that midfield is still a concern. The goal that West Ham scored came because our midfield was gone. Like, you look at that goal that West Ham score, and the ball into Soucek is in the centre of the pitch, and there is no midfield. Now, some people are saying that's because Mainu had swapped with Bruno and Bruno had gone forward. Some people are saying Ugarte had also gone part of the press, but the reality is there was no midfielder. And if you've got 3 centre-backs, maybe one of your centre-backs should step into the midfield, but that can cause chaos as well. The reality is, if we're going to press like that and everyone's going to go forward and leave a hole in the midfield, it ain't that difficult to ping a ball into that much space and be up against Man United's defence. So, look, I still think the midfield needs work, but we've spoken about that many times. Iceman, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much for getting your badge in. We really appreciate you. Arshan says, despite okay game we had yesterday, we can we all can say we really need skillful striker and a fast holding midfielder, says Arshan. Well, I don't know what the profile of midfielder it is we need. If Agate was many people's man of the match, which he was, then is it a number 8 we want? But then a lot of people, myself included, quite liked Mainu. I got no issue with Mainu, by the way. He's barely played. I mean, that's the worst Man United Premier League side ever, and he's barely played. So, you know, I think Amorim dropped the hint in the press conference that Mainu needs to get the intensity and consistency up. Well, he's only going to do that through game time, so... Hi, Mark. I know we're probably not linked with him, but would you take Douglas Luiz from Juve? Apparently, it's disciplinary issues. Juve showing him the door. Maybe there's an affordable deal there. What's your thoughts? Says the 2 Pump YouTube. I do like Douglas Luiz, and we have been linked to him, so that could happen. But obviously, I think any player we get linked to at the moment is going to be a concern because there is the balancing act between we finish 15th and we can't go for the very best players. But there is also the balancing act that we can't do nothing. So I think Ollie Watkins is one of the best options available, so I would do it. If Douglas Luiz is one of the best options available over nothing, I would do it. If Emi Martinez is the best option available in goal instead of Onana, I would do it. Is it the definitive I would want? No, but I think sometimes you've got to look at those options. I mean, look, I saw this, I can't remember where I saw it, but again, you know, I question this person's opinion on regular He sort of took over Gary Neville. But Rio Ferdinand basically has said at some point in the last few days that we should abandon any talk of Sesko and throw the kitchen sink at Baleba. And whilst I think many of us would agree with what he's saying, I don't necessarily think it helps, because at what point have we been negotiating with Brighton for Baleba? What is the price of Baleba? And, you know, I don't think it helps on the 27th of July to just start talking shit. Like, let's not go for a goalkeeper and throw the kitchen sink at Palace for Mateta or Wharton. There's a reason we're not linked to them, because those players are locked in where they are. Brighton would probably want £100 million for Baleba. Now, people would laugh about that, but what did they get for Caicedo? They will want ridiculous money because they won't want to sell him. And I do worry about that type of analysis. Although it does happen in our chat, it's not based on real world. It's sensationalist. And there is a place for that. But I think when you finish 15th and when you've lost to Spurs in a final and you're worried about the future of a manager, I don't think we're going to find much solace in let's throw the kitchen sink at Baleba, or let's throw the kitchen sink at Wharton, or let's just throw a load of money at Rodrigo or Isak. They're just not real. And the one thing we need to be is real. I think this fan base is past just give him a contract and sign it away. I mean, we can't do that sort of stuff. I'd love Baleba, by the way. I'd love Adam Wharton. But we can't do those type of deals. We don't have those funds to do those type of deals. And we need to do real deals at the moment. And look, the reality is it might not be glamorous, but Lemens, Douglas Luiz on loan, and Ollie Watkins, they're probably 3 doable deals that are not going to cost the earth. And we need to do those sort of deals. We need volume over quality anyway. I think with Mbeumo and Cunha, we've bought quality in at a cost of £130 million. We've left 3 priority positions not done. I think if I said to every United fan on May the 31st, do you want to spend £130 million on Mbeumo and Cunha, or would you rather get the 3 key positions done first? I think the majority would say, I'd rather get a midfielder, a striker and a goalkeeper first. And that doesn't mean that Mbeumo and Cunha are bad signings. They're very good signings. But that's the realism I'm talking about. I think people want... We've done glamour. We've done the whole let's get Pogba, let's get Sancho, let's get Alexis Sanchez. I think we just want some realism and stability now. You know, you look at last season and you look at the Fulhams and the Forests and the Brentfords and the Bournemouths. These are not teams with, you know, scattered with superstars, but they are well coached. They are well drilled. They work as a collective, and they are a team. And I think that's something that when Graham Lasso says what he says, you look at United's roster of players or squad, there's so much talent there on paper, but there's not a team. And we need to build a team. That's what we need to do. We've got an amazing squad on paper. I mean, look, as I said, players that didn't even start last night that were on the bench. Harry Maguire's on 190k a week and cost £80 million. Luke Shaw's on 200k a week and was one of the best left backs in the world. Mason Mount's in his mid-20s on 250k a week and cost us £55 million and has won a Champions League. Anana's on 140k a week and played in a final. Casemiro is on 300 grand a week, and is one of the amazing reputation. I'm trying to think who else. Dalot, there's some really, and this is our bench. And Louis says amazing squad, but this is what we're talking about, Louis. On paper, those players have got good reputations, but as a team, it never comes together, does it? And we need to build a team, and that's going to be Amorim's biggest ask, I think. Rico says, I think we're being limited by players because of no European football. It could be a factor with Sesko. I mean, Sesko's basically played most of his young career. He's been in Europe, so that is a sacrifice for him. It's no sacrifice. It's no sacrifice, Elton John. It's no sacrifice for Cunha or Mbeumo because they haven't played European football. So it will be a factor. Obviously, we know it was a factor with Gyökeres. And Liam Delap, apparently, who's never bloody played in Europe. The only time he's been in Europe is when he went on holiday to Magaluf. But it can be a factor, but it won't be a factor with everybody, yeah. I don't like the number 9 Cunha stuff. I mean, if you've actually watched Cunha at Wolves, or you've watched him last night, sticking him at number 9 would be an absolute crime. An absolute crime. The way he gets the ball with his back to midfielders in the halfway line and gains 10 yards, it's just such a... He's like a rugby player, And people who understand rugby will know what I mean. Rugby's all about getting the ball and moving up the pitch through the tackle, gaining ground. Bit like American football. Cunha's like that in football. You give him the ball high up the pitch, and he then takes it for even higher. Now people would say, well, give him the number 9 and he'll still do it. Trouble with the number 9 is you're not involved in the build-up play as much as you are as a number 10. And trouble with number 9 is that there's a lot of balls going beyond you to run onto. You don't get a lot of balls into your feet that you can turn and run at people because centre-backs are, more aggressive. So I Cunha's got to, I would actually rather move Cunha to the 8 than the 9. I'd rather bring him deeper than further forward, because I remember Moussa Dembele at Spurs, and he reminds me of him a lot, and he played deeper for Spurs because he's a very good tackler as well with a very good engine. But I really hope we don't put Cunha up front. I'd rather put Mbeumo up front if we're going to do, desperation. But we clearly want a striker. I think this is so important to say. If we decide to make do and not buy a striker, every United fan knows that Glazers and Ineos have failed Amorim. Because the evidence is there all summer. If we, and we might, if we don't buy a striker and we suddenly go, we're happy with what we've got, that's abandoning the plan, which is dangerous, and it's not backing your manager, because we know we wanted Liam Delap in April, and we didn't get him. We know we wanted Gyökeres, and we didn't get him. We know we went in for Ekitike, and we didn't get him. And we know we've spoken to Villa about Watkins. And also, we now know we're considering Sesko. So we've factually been after 5 strikers. If we then go, we don't want one, everyone knows we did, and therefore you're not backing your manager, are you? Kevin says, since Mbeumo, can I just say, absolutely brilliant audience this morning. 17,000 of you on a Sunday morning at 11:15 UK time after a game that didn't finish till 3 is fantastic. Chris, I haven't missed your super chat. You really do need to understand. You might be new, Chris. We get little moaners in the live chat going, you missed my super chat, you missed my super chat. What happens is you put them in, and thank you very much for doing it, but I don't stop what I'm talking about because of it. I end the conversation I end the topic, and then I go through them all that they're listed and make sure they all get read. So calm your tits. Kevin with a super chat says, since Mbeumo, we've done nothing, not even a concrete connection to any player. That really scares me. I think where apologies, well, we don't want apologies, but where people who accused certain people of being negative should be apologising, really, is that in the middle of June, I said we won't have a striker for the tour. And some people were going, oh, stop being so negative. It's only the middle of June. The transfers window's only been open a week. When July the 1st hits and it's a new PSR year, we'll get going. We haven't done anything since July the 1st. We were negotiating for Mbeumo in June. So since July the 1st and the new financial year, we've done nothing. I know we signed Mbeumo after July the 1st, but we were negotiating with him for June. So since this magical new financial year, we've done nothing. We've not brought anybody in. So that's point one. Point two is, apparently we signed Mbeumo early. Well, we didn't sign him early because Mbeumo can't play against Bournemouth on Thursday, couldn't play last night and missed the Leeds game because he hasn't had enough of a pre-season. So we haven't bought him early, have we? We've actually bought him late because he's miles behind everybody else, fitness-wise. So this is the issue. We're not in concrete talks with anybody, and when they do come in, they're going to be miles behind as well. So I think we're already at a point that whoever comes in, you're going to have to give them patience because, a bit like Agate last year, they're not getting a pre-season. They might get a pre-season where they are, but, you know, imagine if you bring Watkins in, right? People will go, well, he's had a pre-season at Villa. That's like employing a guy to come into your business and speak French and expect him to do it because he spent the last 2 years living in Switzerland. They do speak French, idiot. Why did I pick Switzerland? Idiot! That's like employing a guy or a girl who spent the last 2 years living in Norway speaking Norwegian. It's different. Like, the whole point of pre-season is to learn the system and players that you're going to play with. So we've left it late again. We have left it late again. Marlo says, it's time to give the captaincy to De Ligt. Enough with the Bruno antics, says Marlo. I think De Ligt is so underrated. So underrated, and I'm glad that I gave him man of the match last night. I think he's so underrated, and I blame the British media for it. They don't ever give him any credit. He gets marked down all the time. If there was a player ratings for last night, I guarantee that someone would probably give him a 4. We know what certain journalists do it. You know, people didn't like him at the start because he was going to take Maguire's position. I just don't get the De Ligt issue. He's so good. He's physical. He's still very, very young. He's quick. He reads the game really well. He's good in the air. He puts his body on the line. I think he's arguably our best defender with Yoro. I think he's a brilliant defender. And look, you've still got Mazraoui as well. And you've got Maguire who can come in and do a job. You've got a young player like Heaven. We've got, I think at centre back, I'm really not worried at all. I think we've got a really good mix at centre back of experience, mid-20s players and younger players. We've got a really good mix. Can you wish my mate Niranjan a happy birthday, says Jimming. There we go, happy birthday. And to anybody else whose birthday it is. Iceman is a new member. Thank you very much for getting your badge in, pal. Mark, despite okay game we had yesterday, I've done that one. 2 YouTube. Donny D, welcome to Members Club. This is a Glazer rebrand, not a rebuild, says Keel. Well, remember, the Glazers and Sir Jim are out in the States trying to get private investment from the States for the stadium. More of a cash grab. If we were competent, the B team that came on, 80% of them would have all been solid if we were acting like a big club. I mean, look, it's pre-season, John. West Ham kept a lot of players on for 90 minutes, like Wan-Bissaka, definitely Bowen. I think there was some others. So they would have been tired in the last 20 minutes. We brought a whole team on and it was crap, really. You know, we should have been dominating them with fresh legs and points to prove. It is difficult when you've only got 20 minutes, but it was a flat last 20. Sesko on 100k a week, so not much of a difference than the Watkins deal, says Paul Clancy. Agate getting a pre-season is going to make a massive difference, says Rico. AKA Barelas says, is Donnarumma gettable? No. I mean, that one makes no sense to me. And remember, Donnarumma. I don't know how it works now, but Donnarumma. I mean, obviously he's dead, Mino Raiola, isn't he? Rest in peace. But Donnarumma is part of that stable, so there'll be a lot of money. There'll be a lot of agent fees involved in that. We won't be getting Donnarumma. I mean, he might go Man City. Mr. Game, how did Agate and Mainu do in the midfield, says Jacob. Look, I'm not going to glow it up. It was a pre-season game against West Ham. I think West Ham had more possession, but it was definitely better than Leeds. Definitely better than Leeds. Agate was a contender for man of the match. Mainu was very good, so it's definitely better. Hopefully we see more of it. I think the big concern everybody has is that, will we see that? Is that likely to be our midfield against Arsenal? If it is, I think we've got more. And you've got to think of it like that. When we play Arsenal, what's our midfield? Games are won and lost in the midfield. Their midfield could be Odegaard, Rice and Zubimendi. Do you want our midfield to be Bruno and Casemiro? Or do you want it to be Agate and Mainu? And that's what we've got to start looking forward to. Martinez is an 8. Would love to see that, says Declan. Get some sleep. Watch the gym. Done that one from Muz. Pengas says, we can all see Bruno is best as a 10. Will he end up being forced into the midfield like a square peg in a round hole? Or will we end up playing him at 10 and rotating our 2 new signings, says Pengas. I mean, look, I'll probably get into this on the 8 o'clock show because I need to think about it a little bit more because Bruno's a 10. If Bruno played for Spurs, he'd be my number 10 because they play with a number 10. Yeah, Bruno is a 10 for me. In an Amorim system, the 2 10s have to be ridiculously mobile. Bruno's not particularly mobile. He's everywhere, but he's not like intense mobile flair, speed, etc. I still think if I had Bruno Fernandes, he'd be playing in one of the number 10 roles. Look at yesterday where he gets the second goal. He won't score that from number 8. He gets that ball because Mainu is in the 8 and wins the ball. So Bruno doesn't score that goal if he's a number 8 because he'd be where Mainu is. He'd be the one intercepting the mistake and playing the pass. So Bruno's a 10 for me. But then you go, Mount, Xerxes aren't going anywhere. Ahmad's not going anywhere. And Mbeumo and Cunha have just brought in. So we've got 5 number 10s. Yeah, one of them can go and play on the right wing-back position, but that's it. Ahmad or Mbeumo, only one of them can go right wing-back, and they won't be able to go there every week. So we've got 5 number 10s. Plus Bruno makes it 6. So I can only see him playing as an 8. Half the article in the paper is about Goldbridge, says Dash Cam. What paper? You worry me now. Sunday morning articles. What she said. I told you, I fell into the hotel room. Nothing happened. I was walking past the hotel room and the door, they left the latch off. I fell in. I didn't know it. I thought it was talcum powder. I don't know. I'm winding up. I don't know what that's all about. Do you think Amorim might play Cunha with 9 with Bruno and Mbeumo in the 10s, assuming we don't sign a striker or window? Keep up the good work, Mark, says Travis. Do you think Amorim might play Cunha as a 9 with Bruno and Mbeumo? I hope not. I hope not. I really hope not. John United says the B team needs to go, waste of space. Why is it we're not linked to Mateta, says Mashuarin. If we don't get a good deal, then maybe go for a midfielder like Baleba and play Bruno up front. I think Baleba is impossible, mate. I don't know why anybody's even talking about it. I think it's a nice to have. I think it'd be a dream fantasy signing, but he's not for sale, and it would be huge money that we don't have. Thank you very much for that. Do you think Sesko is another learner driver? We've done that. Done that as well. Just catching up on your chats. Thank you, everybody who's done that. Can Bruno be a false 9, says Vinit. Oh, I don't... You know what? We get a lot of people sort of talking about this, Vinit, and I don't know what the understanding of football is because everybody's welcome and we get a lot of new people, and over the weeks and months they get used to the community and they learn and they become more entrenched in football. But so I will give you the benefit of the doubt. You might be a rage baiter. Bruno can't play as a false 9 at Manchester United because we can't have a false 9 at Manchester United. You can't have a false 9 when you've got 2 number 10s. A false nine, like Harry Kane, drops into the midfield. And the wingers move beyond them like strikers. We don't have wingers that can do that because they're basically fullbacks to provide the width. Our number 10s are the creators. You can't have a number 9 dropping in and being a creator as well. It doesn't work. In an Amorim system, the number 9 has to be a proper striker. They can't be a false 9. They have to be a striker. Harry Kane wouldn't work in our system unless he didn't want to drop in. So no, it won't work. Amorim's system doesn't suit a false 9, says Knight. Exactly. Do you think when Martinez comes back, he will move into the midfield so Bruno can push up, says Rowan? Probably, yeah. And I think Yoro's shown it can be done. I think one of the 3 centre-backs has to start stepping into the midfield. I mentioned this when we kept Bruno. Everyone says it can't work. It can work better if one of the centre-backs steps into the midfield and supports the Agate role. Martinez would be very good at that. But, you know, sometimes you've got 3 centre-backs. Imagine when we play Wolves. Wolves have got 1 striker and we'll have 3 centre-backs. You know, one of those centre-backs has to start stepping into the midfield, definitely. Enjoy Life says, hear me out. Cunha 9, Bruno and Mbeumo 10, Mainu and Agate midfielder. No, I'm not. You've just wasted £62 million if you're going to put Cunha up front. Put Mbeumo up front. Don't put Cunha up front. Would you take Kante? No, James. I'd take Prime Kante. Enchanted Angel says, we need another win back. If we offload Shaw and Malacia, we need to go in for Robinson from Fulham. He has 10 assists. I don't think we're going to get another fullback, to be honest. Since Mbeumo, we've done nothing, not even a concrete connection to any player, says Kevin. Thank you. If Bruno is a 10 for you, does he start, says Jimmy? Yeah. I would always start Bruno as a 10. I would always start Bruno as a 10. That's his best position, and I think he's our best player. Wouldn't have him in the midfield, but I think that's where he'll be. I think this is it's not Bruno's fault, by the way. I don't know what... if I was Bruno, I'd rather play as a 10 than an 8. Definitely rather play. I mean, no one ever thinks about that. They have a pop at Bruno, but where do you think Bruno would rather play? I'd rather play in the position I'm better at. So this is on Amorim. This whole midfield thing is a huge call. And if he gets it wrong, it's on Amorim. And if he gets it right, it's on Amorim. So I think this Bruno in the midfield thing, it's going to carry on. It's going to carry on. Thanks everyone for watching. P says, would Brian up top, Cunha and Bruno in the 10s be a bad idea? Realistically, could be an option if you want to use Bruno. Mate, we might need to be adaptable, and he might have to be adaptable. And the scary thing about that, P, is imagine we're sat there with Amorim this week and he's wanted a striker all summer, and then he goes, you know what, I'm going to play Bruno as a 10, so don't get me a striker. I'll use Mbeumo there. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And that's basically what you're saying. What if Amorim just changes his mind this week and says, let's not buy a striker, I'm going to use Bruno as a 10 and let's put Mbeumo up front. I mean, that's changing the plan, isn't it? But look, I still think you need to buy a striker. Thanks everybody for watching. If you want to carry on the conversation, Terry's live on the Football Terrace. He's just about to start as well. Have a great day. We've definitely got an 8 o'clock show later. We'll see if there's any developments around anything for a 2. But it is the weekend, so thanks everyone. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. I actually feel all right. I'm going to go and get myself a coffee and, you know, do some work, I think. Chill out a little bit. Take care, everyone. Thanks for watching.